What up, nerds, and welcome to another Arthurian episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for this evening. This is episode number 330, recorded on Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. Tonight we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest from A24, that is The Green Knight. Before we get into the discussion, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from across the table, we got our boy, Soju. What's up, man?
Hello, governor. It's your boy, Sir Soju.
That's a really obnoxious accent. Please continue it for the rest of the episode, though.
Yes.
Thank you. Immediately stops. Appreciate.
That's all I got, Bob. It took me a week to practice that. Hello, governor.
You picking up the slack for Randy? He's usually the one that does that shit, and he's not here tonight.
What? Who does what shit?
Who does like terrible English accents?
Dude, yeah. So I'm picking all Randy's slack up tonight.
That's a lot of slack. But it's good to have you, sir. We have a brand new guest, first time appearing live and in person, that is. He's called in, left some voicemails before that have been highly entertaining. Please welcome Matt. What's up, Matt?
Howdy, space vampires and werewolf stepsisters.
Matt, tell us what you would fuck, please.
It'd be a shorter list to tell you what I wouldn't.
I don't think we have that kind of time.
No, this isn't the place for it.
Yeah. You have a certain amount of expertise when it comes to sword fighting, and you also have a genuine interest in like Arthurian tales and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah. So you asked me to come on this podcast before you had actually seen the movie, and we assumed there would be sword fighting in this movie.
It sounds like a safe assumption,
right?
It
did. At the time, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But yet here I am.
But you've got a sword school and a sword fighting podcast as well?
Yes, I do. So I manage
Tell us about it.
Bold City Longsword here in Jacksonville, Florida. We study the art of German longsword from Joachim Meyer's 1570s treatise.
Okay.
And so he wrote all this stuff down, and we found it, and they translated it to English, and we read it and do what the book tells us to do.
Nice. The good book.
It is. It's the best book.
So you can like definitely decapitate someone with one fell swing of a sword?
Yes, and actually after the podcast, I have some stories to tell you.
Fantastic.
Behind the scenes. Sorry,
awesome.
Matt, unfortunately, since Randy's out, I don't have any of your infamous bumps about, relations with space vampires and whatnot, so we'll just have to...
Well, you just give me that special look, and I'll do my best.
Thanks, man.
All right, thanks.
Very good to have you on the show. Before we tackle The Green Knight, let's get into some housekeeping real quick. Last time we recorded, the August poll pick was about to close.
Oh, yeah, Bob. I don't even know what happened in that. That was some big drama.
Yeah, it is officially over, and that was Randy's takeover month. The theme for August was weirdo art house bullshit.
Yeah.
Barbarian Sound Studio was winning, but somehow or another, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me came from the back and won.
It did! Oh, yeah. Wow. Randy's going to be so pleased.
Yes, so we're going to be talking about that in the next few weeks here.
Okay.
But that, of course, means that our September poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote in a movie we're talking about this September. The theme for September is Halloween parties, and the three movies to vote between are Casper, The Guest, and Night of the Demons.
Hey, Bob, tell me how those numbers are looking these days.
Looking pretty good. Night of the Demons is in first place.
Okay.
Followed by The Guest, followed by Casper.
I see. Okay.
The friendly ghost.
Yep, the friendliest ghost. I think there needed to be some clarification on which cat. I didn't know there was a Hannah Montana cat or so. Somebody was posting on the Slack today what Casper that was. That's like the 90s version Casper.
Well, there's like one called like Casper and Wendy, I think. So we're talking about
like Casper.
Sasper.
From 96, I think
it
came out. Something like that with like the three uncles and, Who?
1995 cast.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah, it's got Devon Sawa in it. Bill Pullman, Christina Ricci Casper. That's the Casper.
The good one.
Yeah.
With the baller Halloween party at the end.
Yeah, that's the one that we're so far definitely not going to talk about.
All right, that's fair enough.
Make sure you get your votes in before the end of August, and we'll see what we're talking about this September.
That's weird because when I think about Halloween parties, I think of Halloween 4.
Hell yeah.
When all the murders happen in the barn for some reason.
Yeah. All the kids think it'd be like a great idea to go out and have a little roll in the hay, and of course, murder.
That was 5, wasn't it?
Was it 5?
In the barn?
5? Yeah, that is 5.
5.
Yeah.
We just covered it last year is the only reason it's kind of on my brain.
That was like the one decent part of 5, I think. Was the Halloween party.
I don't know.
Anyway, we already covered that. No need to get into it again. In other Patreon news, we dropped a brand new mini cast this past week. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get the opportunity to listen to a whole bunch of Patreon exclusive content. Juice and I did a review on M. Night Shyamalan's latest film, Old. And if you want to know our thoughts, you just got to check it out on Patreon.
I think you want to know our thoughts.
I think you want to know our thoughts.
I think so.
There's many of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Check that out. And we also owe a huge debt, a great bit of gratitude to not one, but 2 brand new Patreon supporters this week. Big thanks to Jack and Javier L for signing up, showing us some love on Patreon.
That's Javier.
Javier. That name is too cool for me to say. Fuck. But as is tradition around these parts, we owe y'all the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Jack and Javier.
All right, here we go. Ready? 1.
Slap me in the ass.
No. And number 2.
Yep.
Oh, God, slap me in the ass.
How to get the oh God in there.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. I think that's my favorite one.
That one's for Javier.
Javier, oh, God.
Oh, God. Slap me in the ass.
Thank you for the support.
Yes, we definitely appreciate the love. That's all we got going on for Patreon. Juice, do you have any YouTube news or anything?
Yeah, I finally it's a little bit on the older side at this point, but it hasn't appeared on YouTube yet. It was on Twitch for a little while, but me and Bob playing Zombies Ain't My Neighbors is now finally available on YouTube. So we played through I think the first 20 levels. So a lot of great horror stuff going on there. Neither of us had played it growing up, so we are pretty terrible, which brings on some pretty solid laughs. So yeah, if you're interested in some horror gaming or just watch me and Bob look like fools, you can check that out youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. Other than that, though, my house is clean. We good? Bob, let's get physical media. You got anything new to announce?
Yeah, I do actually, real quick. Let's Get Physical Media episode number 22 is now available everywhere you get your podcasts. If you have an interest in collecting Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, a lot of them, most of them from boutique Blu-ray distributors, my boy Mikey and I talk about that on Let's Get Physical Media. We cover our June pickups in the 22nd episode, so slam that into your ear holes. And now I believe our houses are collectively squeaky motherfucking clean.
All right.
This house is clean.
All right.
Bob, what are we talking about tonight?
Talking about The Green Knight from 2021, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
It sure is a lot of work Randy's making me do tonight.
Dude, I used to do all that shit. Randy took a little bit off my plate, so you're getting
flowing
a
through
taste.
it, man. You don't make it look hard.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
So yeah, talking The Green Knight, the latest from A24. This was written and directed by David Lowery. Stars Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, some other folks. Runtime of 2 hours, 10 minutes. The shortest plot synopsis is provided by IMDb, and this is it. A fantasy retelling of the medieval story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Okay.
That is factually what it is.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Thanks,
Yeah.
IMDb. Gentlemen, this is a brand new film, so I'm sure it was a first time watch for all of us. But would you recommend people check this movie out? Matt, you're the guest, man. Why don't you kick us off?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm pretty lukewarm on it.
Okay.
I just reread the book before going in the movie, and I think it hurt my experience pretty bad. But the overall, I liked it, but not much rewatchability.
Okay.
So it's a lukewarm for me.
So would you consider yourself a fan of the original story, the
Yes.
poem?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm a fan of this movie. I just don't think it's going to be for everybody.
I got you. Okay.
Like, I wouldn't take my mom to see this movie.
Gotcha. I don't know that I would either. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, that is actually like my number one rule just across the board after I think like Harry Potter 6 came out in theaters and I was like, fuck this, because I had just read the book, is never read the book right before a movie because the book is always better, or the stories. But I did not. I did my research after I'd seen this movie. I went into it pretty blind. I am a big fan of A24, and I was really looking forward to this. So I did a top 5 most anticipated films video, and this was number 1 on my list for this year. And I was really looking forward to this. I like A24. I like fantastical, like subject matter and stuff like that. Didn't really know anything about the story going in. I would say my recommendation for this movie in the theaters would be that it looks fantastic. And so if you're looking for something that just looks very cinematically beautiful, then you should go see this in the theaters because it looks amazing. I agree with Matt. This is definitely not going to be for everybody. It is like a slow burn. It's kind of hard to pigeonhole into any kind of genre even. It's very much in the vein of like A24 though. So if you love A24 just in general, get out and see this movie. But yeah, I could see where a lot of people would just kind of be maybe disappointed on this viewing. But I thought it was beautiful and a great spectacle. So I would recommend on that basis. Bob, what do you think? Would you recommend people check this out in the theater?
You know, I just don't think I would.
Okay.
It's visually beautiful. It really is. Like most A24 movies are. It's got I feel like most people are familiar with like that vibe. They've got sort of a tone that a lot of their movies hit. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They're usually very well crafted. A little bit of a slower moving film. But it's largely, man, I wanted a lot more from this movie. I think we should probably also clarify that like this is not a horror movie in any way, really. It's an adventure movie. It's like a quest. So
maybe a coming of age
story for sure. I was just left wanting more, and I ultimately don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. The visuals are beautiful, and of course, like filmmaking is a visual medium, etc. So there's something to be appreciated about it. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie, but I don't necessarily think I'd recommend someone run out to the theater to watch it. Mediocre recommend from the three of us, I think. But let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we're going to get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Look at Juice working over there. Juice just pressing buttons like it's his fucking job.
Ooh, I need to find out what program Randy uses to make it easier. I'm just using the generic sound player on my laptop.
I do have a plot synopsis typed up.
Thank God. I'm curious to see what this sounds like coming from the mouth of Blurb over here.
Try and read quickly. It's a little long, but not crazy. Not
okay.
All right, so the movie opens with our main character, Gawain. Am I saying that right? Gawain?
They said it multiple different ways in the movie.
They did. Okay, making sure I'm not crazy. Okay, I'm going to say Gawain. Our main character, Gawain, who is King Arthur's nephew. He's drinking a bunch and whoring around. He's still living with his mother. On Christmas Day, his mother summons the Green Knight, who strolls into King Arthur's court and challenges the knights to strike a single blow to him. Should a knight succeed, 1 year from now, an equal blow shall be returned to the knight. Gawain accepts the challenge. The Green Knight drops his axe, bends a knee, and bares his neck. Gawain beheads the knight, but the knight does not die. He picks up his head and rides out of the court laughing hysterically. 1 year later, King Arthur forces Gawain to journey towards the Green Chapel to see the knight as he agreed to. His mother gives him a green girdle that has magical powers. As long as he's wearing the girdle, he will remain unharmed. Gawain then encounters several strangers on his journey. He gets robbed and left for dead. He meets a ghost and helps her retrieve her severed head. He meets a fox that joins him on his journey, in which they come across several giants. They then come to a castle and they meet a lord, his lady, and an older blindfolded woman. The lord says Gawain is welcome to stay until Christmas Day, as the Green Chapel is not far from where they're at. The lord also says he wants to make a deal. He will give Gawain whatever spoils the forest offers him during his hunt if Gawain agrees to give him whatever spoils the house provides during the day. While the lord is off hunting, the lady seduces Gawain and gives him a green girdle just like the one his mother gave him and was ultimately stolen from him. Gawain then ejaculates, and the lady says he is indeed not a knight. The lord returns, and Gawain gives him a kiss, but keeps the girdle. The lord releases the fox he captured during his hunt, and the fox and Gawain resume their journey. The fox suddenly speaks in Gawain's mother's voice and tries to stop him from finding the Green Chapel. Gawain ignores the pleas and continues on his journey. Gawain then meets the Green Knight, bows his head, but he flinches when the knight raises his axe. Then, in a vision, we see Gawain return home. He ends up getting knighted. He impregnates his girlfriend, sells off the baby, marries a noblewoman, has another son who dies in war, becomes a hated king, and as his castle is being stormed, he then finally removes the green girdle and his head falls off. We then flash back to present day, in which Gawain, still kneeling before the Green Knight, removes his girdle and braces to have his head chopped off. The Green Knight then compliments him, calls him a brave knight, then says, "Now off with your head." And the final thing we see is in the middle of the credits, towards the end there, we see a little girl pick up the king's crown and place it on her head.
Oh man, I always miss those extra little scenes.
Yeah.
Damn, what is this fucking Marvel over here?
Apparently.
Jesus Christ. I missed that.
The Red Knight. It's going to be a trilogy.
There was one thing that you said that I didn't take it that way. Just to clarify, if that actually happened the way you said it, when he has his vision about the rest of his life, I thought the son that died in war was the son that he had with the whore. I didn't realize he sold.
I took too. Like
Okay.
Merlin took the baby and
okay.
they raised the baby in the court while they left the whore in the brothel.
I must have misread
Yeah,
that. Okay.
because then later, once the son has died, they have an exchange. The mother, who's a whore, and the king, like they have an exchange, and I thought it was because of that. Like,
Yeah, her son just died out on the battlefield.
yeah, okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
So he actually did love that son.
Gotcha, okay.
and mourned his death.
Right, yeah, he was very troubled, for
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
Okay. All right, so that's the plot, as I saw it anyways. Definitely open for interpretation in certain points, and a lot of points, actually. I think we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
We also are going to talk about the original story and the changes that were made.
Yeah,
and adapting
and why, and
Yeah.
what has, because a lot of stuff has been added, and like I want to get y'all's thoughts. An initial, I know we did our recommendations, but I didn't quite get the vibes from y'all. Did y'all like this movie?
I did. I liked it the same way I liked The Lighthouse.
Okay.
It was an experience. I don't know if I can emotionally rewatch this movie soon. I didn't feel like I was actually on an adventure, and I didn't feel like I was actually being scared. But it was an experience that I enjoyed. I just don't know if I want to do it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel somewhat similar. I think I just like wanted to connect with Gawain's character and ultimately could not do it. And so like I just felt very detached from the movie.
That's a very bold choice to make a entire movie about a shitbag that no one's going to like.
True.
Man, I want to get into the discussion then, because I really like this movie. And when I left the theater, I could not wait to talk about it. Luckily, I saw it with Drew and Aaron. and like they started pointing out things that I didn't quite get on my initial viewing, but I knew that there was like something there. And as we were discussing, I couldn't stay long, and I felt so disappointed because I wanted to talk more and more about these things that I had just seen and really chew on them and understand them. And I still am kind of in that mode. And there's these like decisions about what they showed on screen and like why they did, but also too, I just like had to get into it. So like I was listening to like the original story, and there's the thing is there's this, the original writer is anonymous, and it's this Arthurian tale, but then Tolkien, am I saying that right? Tolkien? Yeah. He did like he translated it or made it like more accessible.
So the original poem is like written in a mathematical formula. Like the very first paragraph talks about Troy, and then the very last paragraph talks about Troy.
Okay.
And the second paragraph talks about the lineage of King Arthur, and the penultimate paragraph. And in the very middle of the poem, the exact middle, that paragraph's only one word. And
That's
like,
pretty cool.
There's all this mathematical stuff that goes
Okay.
into it,
Yeah.
which is why the poem's a masterpiece. But when you translate it, all that goes away because now it's in a different language. Stuff isn't rhyming anymore.
Yeah.
So there's multiple translations of people trying to give you the same experience, even though it's kind of impossible. There's a free version on Audible right now that I think is actually a better translation than Tolkien's version.
Okay. Because
But-
I listened to a thing that was comparing the original with Tolkien. Like they were saying like what he had changed, and even talking about like at one point they talk about Gawain's 5 virtues, and like even the words that he chooses to explain those are different. So that's probably a great recommendation for the free Audible.
Yeah, for sure. And it says it's 6 hours, but it's only 3 hours because after they get done talking, or after they finish the story, they do it again in Middle English, which very few people are going to understand. It's kind of a waste of space, but it sounds really cool.
Sounds dope.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that the type of poem that it was, so Shakespeare kind of took off, and it was more of like a sing-songy type of poetry where the ending rhymes, but this was more like a V for Vendetta where it was all about alliteration. So
Yeah.
it was like a different style of poem that didn't really kind of take off like as much as kind of like a Shakespeare style did.
Well, this, yeah, because I imagine this is much more hard to write. Like, you
Yeah.
probably need like an abacus and like shit, you know.
That's nuts. Yeah.
All of your fingers.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it went back.
So
in
it
the day.
is cool that there's like several versions out there, and I like that the original author's just like anonymous. That's really cool. I like the lore behind this.
Well, this movie definitely changes.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of stuff. Like, I think basically the only thing that's verbatim from the story is the Christmas morning in King Arthur's court. And it's not only changed, it's like the exact opposite. Like in the book, Gawain is super noble, and in the movie he's a total asshole.
He's
Yeah.
already a knight.
Yeah, in the book,
yeah.
he's already a knight. In the book, people keep trying to seduce him, and he's like, "No, I'm a knight. That's not what I do." And in the movie, it's the exact opposite.
Whoring around.
Pouring around, and like when he's going to go get that lady's head,
Yeah.
he asks what she's going to give him.
Right,
And
yeah.
in the story, it would. She would offer, and he would be like, "No, you don't need to offer me anything." So they literally went out of their way to do like a photo negative of the original story, and then in the movie they actually do a photo negative of the character. So I thought that was really interesting.
Now, was the head in the lake, was that part of the original story?
I don't think so. Not of the original poem. I think what they
Okay,
did was
okay.
they found other little Arthurian stories and plugged them in. Like that could have been Lancelot or one of the other
Gotcha.
knights.
Okay.
But they needed to add space.
I
and like,
Dude, I don't know that they did. I will say that sequence with the ghost and like him jumping into the lake to find her severed head was probably the highlight of the whole movie for me. Obviously, that plays into like my appreciation of horror because it's a little ghost story right in the middle of the movie, and I just thought it was
Yeah.
like really beautiful and like simple. I don't know. I dug it a lot, but also like, man, this movie drags a lot for me. Man.
does.
It lingers on every shot, and they're beautiful, but it drags, man.
I didn't find the main character as I was watching it to be a complete piece of shit. Like you,
Not a complete piece
yeah,
of shit.
and honestly, I found him relatable in a way that, I mean, relatable, but I found his journey interesting in that he goes back and forth for me.
Well, he keeps trying to be good, and then he gives up immediately.
Well, yeah, well, but it's also kind of like this idea, and a lot of it is, the reason I said this kind of like coming of age is because a lot of it is based around like being naive. Like his first instance is he just like asks somebody for help and they just like take advantage of him, and he doesn't have like the intuition or the experience to know that like you're about to get your ass robbed.
This interpretation of the original story just like kind of cracks me up a little bit because it feels very much like a helicopter parent, like millennial interpretation of the original story. Like this fucking kid just won't get out of his mom's goddamn basement. She has to like concoct this like way for it to like test his nobility or test his honor and like help him grow up as a man. Like it's just an interesting way to translate the
It's
story.
also really weird because like no one prepared him for the real world.
Yeah.
He just laid, from what we know, he just laid around a whorehouse his whole teenage years.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I guess you know how to be a man now, when he obviously doesn't know how to be a man yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess some reasons like why I didn't just like completely hate him is because he's the king's nephew, and he's like sleeping around, but he's also not like throwing his weight around. You know, like when he's in King Arthur's court and stuff like that, he humbles himself. He doesn't try to like make up stories of it. Like the King Arthur says, like, I love the dialogue of Christmas morning.
Yeah.
When King Arthur like says, hey, you know, nephew, come sit with me, and like this is a time to be with family. It's Christmas, and I don't know anything about you, and I really regret that. You know, King Arthur, he's getting old at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, like, I don't know anything about you. Please tell me, like, for Christmas, tell me about yourself. And, like, Gawain doesn't try to be, like, he's not, you know, as the king's nephew, he's not bossing people around. He's not throwing his weight around. He even, like, doesn't, they set him up with this situation with this whore, and he doesn't even lead her on, because she does this whole thing where she's like, I want to be your lady. I really actually care for you. And he's not like schmoozing her or anything.
Yeah.
And so I find this kid to be like, yeah, he's useless in a lot of ways, but he really wants to be a good, noble person. He just like doesn't fucking know how.
I would say that scene where she asks him if she could be his lady defines him completely as a character, because he didn't lie to her and say yes, but he didn't tell her no like he should have, because he's going to be king. He knows his society won't let it happen.
That's a good point.
So instead, he just didn't answer her and hung his head, and that's pretty much defines him for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
it is. But see, the ending really to me for his character is telling, because in the final scene, or like his final, I consider each one of these segments like a test.
Yeah,
and
it's very much the trials of Hercules through the Arthurian legends.
Yeah, and in his final one, the thing is that I found curious, and actually Aaron kind of pointed this out when we were finished with it, is the guy that he's staying with, I don't know what to call him, but like the guy he's staying in his castle, and they have
Lord.
Yeah, they have a dialogue too, and he's saying like what do you want? Like, why are you doing this? What's your whole he's like, for honor, like, and he's like, is that really like important? Is that really what you want? And kind of like, yeah, that's like what I want. And then he goes through this whole, like, what is your life going to be? I'm going to be this. I'm going to be king. I'm going to marry this hot ass bitch. I'm going to have kids. Like, I'm going to do these things. But in the ultimate end, he starts a war and ruins his kingdom, and he dies an essentially like dishonorable death, like with his wife and kids like locked up in the thing, and his ultimate choice is to not live that life, is to not live a dishonorable life, is to go ahead and die now in a moment of technical honor because he has lived up to his obligation. He didn't even like the fox tempts him like, hey, you don't have to go, I'm not going to tell anybody, like nothing's going to happen, and he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And so I guess that's why I don't hate him and think he's like a piece of shit.
Well, it's very clearly he doesn't understand what honor is. That in that scene, the Lord's making fun of him. He's saying he wants honor, and he's going to go make this appointment, and then he's going to be honorable. And the Lord says, "Oh, it's easy as that." When he could have been acting honorably the whole fucking trip.
Yeah.
If he really wanted if he really wanted honor, he would have already been acting honorably. And the Lord's making fun of him, and he's too naive and young to understand that.
Yeah, that's.
I don't see his final act there as being super honorable because he does choose to continue on his journey and actually meet the Green Knight. When he gets there and the knight raises his axe, he flinches twice and he gets up and he's like, wait, is this it? Is this really it? Like he thinks there's going to be more to what's going to happen to him. He doesn't really fully believe he's going to get beheaded, I don't think. And then he has that flash where he sees what his life would be like if he stays the way that he is, if he continues wearing the girdle. And that life is terrible, and it seems much worse of an option than to just go ahead and get beheaded. So he then removes the girdle and chooses to just end it then and there, which I don't see as being a noble choice. I see it as the easier of the two choices, really.
I mean, he gets to be king and like marry. I guess. I don't know. I just didn't take it that way. I didn't hate this kid.
It seems like the whole trip, he's only thinking about the reward of the honor he's going to gain after this all happens. And he never really understands that the trip is what he should be focusing on, and that should be letting him grow. All he can focus about is the future when he's not thinking about the present at all.
That's some deep shit, Matt.
I'm sorry.
No. It's a good point. Yeah, you're right. And I'm not saying that like this kid is a total piece of shit and like he's completely irredeemable.
He is.
I don't think that's the case. I just don't think that he's very honorable, and I think he starts off kind of lost, doesn't really know what he's doing, and because of that, he's just very self-centered because like he doesn't know anything outside of himself. Yeah, and he goes on this journey. And I don't necessarily think he grows much at all until the very end when he gets basically shown what his life is going to be like if he continues on this path. And it's terrible.
When he realizes there's no reward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then he chooses to just be honorable all of a sudden and die because it's the easier of the two options, I think.
Man, see, okay, his first test, okay, he's a day outside of his home and he gets robbed. Literally everything taken from him. His horse, his safety belt, everything. And so, but he doesn't like tuck tail and run home. He presses on like with his journey, and even like through many times where he's given the opportunity to stay in safety or to just go back to that easy life, he never takes that choice.
He was told to go though. And Matt, you had a point.
Well, I was just going to say, technically, none of that stuff was his. It
was given.
Well, sure, yeah, okay.
Also, so like the kid offers him directions. Whether or not they're good is up for debate, and he just chooses to not give the kid any money. And he's like, "Hey, what's up? Are my directions worthless?" And then he gives him a menial, whatever the fuck he gives him, and rides off. And that's not like very honorable. And because of that, I think is why he gets robbed.
Well, that kid. I believe there's a line where he basically says he's already in the Green Chapel. Like the moment he rides into the battlefield, he's already made it, and the test has already started.
Gotcha.
So like this is where it gets all psychedelic, lighthousey, so you notice the people that robbed him, it was one boy and two girls, and then when he makes it to the Lord's Manor, it's one boy and two girls. It's like they're the same people over and over and over again. I believe the actor who played the Lord in the Castle also played the Green Knight.
I know that the his girlfriend at the beginning of the movie, Alicia Vikander, also plays the lady of the manor towards the end of the movie. It's the same actress.
Wait, say that again?
His girlfriend at the beginning. is played by the same actress that plays the lady of the manor towards the end of the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, same
So
lady.
they just cleaned her and put a different
I
wig on her.
think Drew said that, and me and Aaron were both like, nah. I
No,
thought
yeah,
it was a
it's-
different
That's
person.
definitely, yeah.
It makes me think, like, this whole, like, interpretation of the story seems completely constructed by his mother, because, like, she is the one that conjures the Green Knight, and she's the one that gives him the original girdle, which is then taken from him, and he goes on the path, and then the fox joins him, which the fox later speaks to him with his, like, mother's voice. It's, like, kind of distorted, but it's definitely his mother's voice. So, like, she's some sort of, like, I guess, witch or whatever, and she's able to, like, look through the eyes of this fox. And then there's this other woman that looks exactly like a girl that he is dating back home, who then gives him another girdle that's identical to the one that he's lost that his mother made. So, like, is his mother just, like, truly behind this whole fucking journey that he's on
I
right
was
now?
confused by that.
It is confusing, yeah.
Because it seems like she conjures the Green Knight.
Yeah.
And she has some kind of magical powers, and so she gives him a belt, which we see in the flash forward could save his life, literally keeping his head on his neck.
Yeah.
And then the fox speaks in her voice. I was also very confused about that purpose.
Yeah, like, is the Lord and the lady and the blindfolded woman, like, do they even really exist, or is that just, like, some shit that his mother conjured up? Because, like, one of them looks just like his girlfriend, you know, and, like, there's a blind lady. Like, is that just his mother somehow? Like,
I think for the purpose of this movie, yes.
Yeah,
And
just
then
for this movie, yeah.
On top of that, he also ate mushrooms.
he
So
did, yeah.
He did. I was thinking
And
about
then
that
sees
too.
giants.
Yeah.
We about to see giants,
was
dog.
was that giant that turned around and looked at him also the actress that played his girlfriend?
That's
That's
great
a great question.
I don't have that answer.
It looked very close, but I'm not for sure.
That is a great question.
I'm going to pretend it was.
I looked at the cast on IMDb just to confirm, and it only had those two characters listed. It didn't say, like, giant or anything.
But yeah, that was what I wanted to ask you, because when I initially got out, like, my first thought, I was like, what was this movie? Like, what was the purpose between each one of these segments? And it came down to, like, the whole, like, each one was a test. And when he's suiting up, like, when he's ready to go out, there's this whole, like, flash sequence where Arthur is talking about the five. And, like, one of the things that's in the original is, like, the 5 virtues of Gawain or whatever. And so I think these are how they're listed is friendship, generosity, chastity, courtesy, and piety. And I was wondering, like, if each one was a test of a virtue or supposed to represent a test of a virtue. But I was trying to think about, like, the whole giant one, and see, it was another reason why I totally didn't, hate this kid, is because I saw it as, like, a sign of some sort of, like, bravery, like, him even accepting this challenge and going out with the idea that he could die and be beheaded, especially after he gets robbed and everything, and then meets a ghost. Then he goes and, like, sees a bunch of giants, and he's not like, I'm out of here. He like speaks to them. He calls out to them.
He asks for a lift because he's fucking lazy and probably high on mushrooms.
Man, I just did not see it that way. I was like, man, if I saw a bunch of giants walking around, I wouldn't be like, hey, I wouldn't I'd be like, oh, shit.
I think the main reason
in this cave.
he's not turning around is because he's not a knight, and he doesn't want to be the only guy in the room that's not a knight.
Yeah, but he could go back and lie about anything.
I wouldn't lie to King Arthur about anything.
He could say anything.
I mean,
and even
the
fox gives him that chance, like that temptation.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, man. I still think that he was assuming there would be something more to this whole, quote, game at the end, and then he finds out that there isn't. I think that's the main reason he continues on his journey, honestly. But it's open for interpretation.
Well, yeah, like there's some big secret that's going to be revealed about being honorable when it's not a secret. You just do it.
That's what happens on a big journey, right? If you're a knight on a big journey, there's some big reveal at the end, some big payoff, right? But no. That's like what a kid would think. You know?
Yeah, I get, except even the whole idea of like, okay, it's this house of like knights and they're all sitting around and they're all joshing and whatnot. And like the king literally his whole thing is like, tell me about, like, that's his like television. Tell me a story, all you knights that are surrounding me, full of bravery and full of virtue and all of these things. Tell me a tale of yourself. And you have to think that whole hall is just full of bullshit. You know, guys just one-upping each other. That's kind of how I see it in a way. And so even at a point where like, well, I saw a fucking ghost and I fucking saw some giant yabos and like I was hanging out with this fox that was talking to me and I got robbed. I mean, that alone in itself is like, I could take that back to the hall, you know, as things that I've experienced or seen. I don't know. I didn't hate this kid like you guys did.
I still don't. I don't hate the character. I just don't think there's enough there to really root for him. And I also, and this is more a problem with the writing, the screenwriting, than it is like with like this character in this movie's actions. It's just, there's just not enough growth on his journey to make the journey worth watching, to me anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they waited way too long.
Yeah. It's just not, like, he doesn't really seem to grow at all. Really.
I thought he did.
I tell you, I was cheering for his girlfriend the whole time.
Yeah.
And I really wanted it to work out for her.
Yeah.
And so like the writers kind of gave you some people to root for. I just don't know why it wasn't the main character.
Strange choices to make. And maybe the director like did see him as growing on his journey. It just like didn't. That was not really like advertised in his decisions.
I saw that as growth. Like, I don't know, the idea to accept death as opposed to living such a shitty life where you bring so much shit on other people, and it wasn't. I mean, like, I don't know. I thought that was the growth. I didn't see it as this easy way out, this cop out. I saw it as an acceptance of this is who I am, and it's like negatively affecting other people, and I'm not going to live that life.
It was growth, but it was growth after we witnessed him being a shitbag for 2 hours.
I didn't see it that way. See, even with the head, all the things that y'all talk about. Okay, so so y'all point out the negative of he didn't offer that kid any money, or when he finally was prompted, he didn't give it to him. But like the first thing that he says is like, you know, you have that kid was a shyster, like from the very beginning. And I saw it as an audience member, like this is like a shakedown artist. And so I don't see that as being a negative on Gawain's end, because I'm like, I've experienced people like that. Like, fuck those people. Why would you help that person? The second one, he experiences a ghost and he does the task for her. Like, yeah, he asked for something, but he does do the task. The third one I saw is bravery, where he faces the giants. That's kind of how I saw it. I saw him facing the Green Knight, where he's tempted by the fox to turn around and just like, you know, like tell the story. I won't tell anybody. I saw that as another sense of like bravery. And really the part where I thought he failed was the chastity, which is with the wife, but he was like being tempted the whole time, like past the point of like, you can have it, like tell me you want it. I don't know. It's like, damn, this guy was kind of set up.
That scene's actually way cooler in the book.
Yeah, so that is the only one story, not the robbing, not the giants, that the actual lady and guy lord that is the actual main story from the book.
So so it takes place over 3 days in the book, and there's correlations between what the husband's doing out while he's hunting and what the wife's doing back at the house. So like the first day he hunts a sheep, and the first day she tries to seduce him all, tentatively. She's like playing girl next door, like a sheep, and she's being all nice and coy. And the whole time she's trying to seduce him, it describes the husband's hunting and then the dressing of the animal. And like, so it correlates dressing an animal with sex. And then the second day he hunts a boar. And that day she's very aggressive. She's like, you just better fucking fuck me right now. So
she says something like, you could take me by force and it would be okay or whatever.
And then the last day he hunts a fox. And that's the day she actually gets somewhat of a win because she's being all coy and she tempts him with the belt.
Yeah.
Because in the book, he's so virtuous that the sex doesn't matter. But the thought of not dying, that actually wins him over.
And then he just shoots a nice load all over that belt.
It's like the topping from a toaster strudel all over his hand.
But see, now that's the weird thing about the difference in the book, because the Green Knight in the book turns out to be the Lord of the Manor. And the whole thing is he says, like, I'm going to spare your life because you didn't fail my... He was essentially testing him with his wife. He told his wife, go tempt him with sex, and it wasn't the sex that won him over, it was his want to save his own life, because the whole deal, which was the deal that they made in this movie, which didn't seem as impactful to me, like that was kind of weird. We could talk about that, but the whole deal that they make in both stories, the movie and the book, was the Lord said, like, whatever you find or whatever you gain here at my manor, you give to me and I'll give you anything I hunt. So he makes this other deal. He needs to stop fucking making deals because it's getting him in trouble. He makes it again though. And the whole thing in the book is you gain the belt, but you didn't give it to me.
Yeah.
It's it's only real sin in the book.
Yeah, in the book.
He's perfect the whole book until this one point. And like that's the whole point of the original story was no matter how good you are, you're not perfect. But that scene's also very titillating back then because that chance of homosexuality, which they didn't want to talk about or think about back then. So like the whole time the wife's like, you need to fuck me. And in the back of your head, you're like, if he fucks her, what happens when the husband comes home? And like that's what made the story like a big seller back there. Or like everyone wanted to talk about it and made this story so popular. Or one of the things.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God, we're not supposed to think about this yet. Here we are thinking about
That's
it.
interesting.
Though they never actually say it.
Because though he does like when in the book, when the guy brings something home, he's like, here's a sheep for you. Like, you're going to take this on your journey. Here it is for you. He's like, what do you have for me? And the first time he kisses him, he kisses the Lord of the Manor.
And he's like, ooh, where'd you get that kiss? And he goes, that's not part of the deal. I don't have to tell you where I got it.
And then the second one, he like kisses him 3 times or something, or maybe the last one, instead of giving him the belt, he kisses him 3 times as like, or whatever, like, okay, I'm not going to give you the belt, but I'll like put out a little extra. But what was up with the blind woman in this one?
I don't know.
Which?
Yeah, I think there is a very much Christianity versus witchcraft.
Paganism
in this movie too. But they don't like throw it in your face.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something too that's just intriguing about this movie, but also bringing up like old Arthurian tales, because in this movie, like it's Christmas, they're celebrating Christmas, and there is a lot of like Christianity behind it. But also back then, it wasn't this separation of Christianity and paganism. Like the whole idea of the earth, they were willing to accept that those things existed and like use them to their benefit. It wasn't this like, let's hunt down the magic folk, let's, scorch the earth or whatever. It was a part of life.
Yeah, so in this time period, the time period of historical King Arthur, that's like around the year 300, and Rome had became Christian, and Rome had colonies in Britain, and when they so like anywhere Rome had settled was Christian, and anywhere where Rome didn't have power was still pagan.
Okay.
And then when they pulled out, Rome left, everything got mixed, and then the Saxons came in. And Arthur held them off for a while, and that's why that's where the legend comes from.
Okay. So like I like it's kind of refreshing for a change that it's not just like Christianity versus the earth or this idea of paganism, which there's even this like dialogue that the woman of the house, the lady of the house or the manor or whatever, gives about the like colors and the earth and stuff like that, and you know, green overtakes and things like that. But I just this simple idea of like this Christian society that's still okay with, I'm going to wear a magic belt, or that there's magic. It's not these opposing forces. It's like, yeah, this is what exists in the world, and Christianity isn't against the world.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If he thinks the belt works, why'd he flinch?
It's a
The
good question.
doubt.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real good answer. It's
Yeah.
just, I think it's because he's a coward, personally. But if the belt is magic and he can't, because his vision of the future, he lived until he pulled it off.
Yeah.
Then why'd he flinch?
Now, see, I like that even little twist of he's living this life and he pulls off this belt. We were talking about the sound effects that went with him pulling off the belt. It had this like fleshy sound, almost like the belt was inside of his flesh. But we're like, did it just correlate with the idea that the cut was actually now coming through his neck?
Yeah.
Or was he so paranoid that he had the belt like infused into his skin at some point? And it doesn't matter either way. It was just a cool, I liked that moment because I wasn't particularly expecting it. And when it happened and then he accepted to just end his life and remove the belt, I found that so powerful to me, honestly. I really liked how that played out. I thought this movie did a great job of like storytelling and showing growth in that way.
I definitely didn't see that false ending. Because like that, you know, the whole time he's just this shit ass coward, and then he just in the vision continues to be that.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, there was no big switch up, and then so I'm like, oh, this is obviously the conclusion of someone who acts like that, and it really caught me off guard when it flashed back to the green chap.
I would have preferred if they hadn't flashed back. I think if they would have just like stayed course, and like as he slowly removed the belt and the castle's being stormed, the Green Knight would have then come through and finally cut his head off. I would have preferred that as an ending than like flashing back and him being like, well, that looks bad.
But no, see, to me, that is the growth where you say there's no growth. Like, because that's what I like. That was what was so powerful to me, that like you got everything that you thought that you wanted. To be king, and like to marry a princess and to like run this thing. And I think it was honestly that it's like, you know, not everything that glitters is gold type of thing of you chase these ideas of honor and you honor these men and what they do, but the reality of their lives and the choices they make is death and a gray life and gruesomeness. And so I saw this time, I think I was willing to forgive this kid the whole time. I think there was this juxtaposition too, because even though he's making these mistakes, he feels like a kid. He feels naive to me, like I'm watching like a younger brother experience life. Where in the flash forward, where he's an adult, he's cold, he's stone, he's grown bitter, and he's grown into an adult, and he's lost that like starry-eyed looking at nights and like, oh, that's what it is. He knows the reality of life and he chooses not to live that. He's finally faced with the cold reality of life, and instead of saying like, yeah, I'm gonna go be king and like live up to my duty, he's like, nah, that life sucks.
So he chose the easy way out.
No, he chose. Like, I don't think it's easy to choose death.
I mean, it's based on what you just described. It seems like the lesser of two evils. Neither option is good.
I mean, it depends on what you. I mean, that's relative because it really depends on what you cherish. Do you cherish life? Like, I think anybody would cherish life, and no matter, even if you thought that that's what your life was going to be, how many people would say, like, I can change it? Now I know I can do it different. I'm going to be king and I'll make all the decisions. Now I have the insight into life. But how many people honestly are like brave enough no matter what to choose death? Like, honestly,
I don't think it's a brave choice.
I found it very powerful.
I mean, that's like a weird talk about suicide.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess I'm just saying, like, yeah, like how many people, like, isn't that the thing that you constantly see even in kind of like cautionary tales of like knowing the future is like, I can change it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had a lot of opportunities to grow in this movie and just didn't until the very end when he realized that he was going to be a shitbag for the rest of his life.
Man.
I did notice something when you were talking. You kept referring to him as a kid, and I think we all were referring to him as a kid. I wonder what, like a teenager or someone in their early 20s, I wonder if they view the movie different than we do because they're closer to his age.
Maybe.
Because we're just looking down on this naive son of a bitch, and we're like, this fucking asshole kid. And I'm wondering if they can relate more. Because I feel like Arthur, I'm like, I was really hoping you would be better at this. But
Yeah.
Entertain me, boy. I don't really know you.
Yeah, and
you haven't lived at all.
Do you think a younger audience is the target audience for this movie that can relate to the main character better?
To be honest, I don't know who the target audience.
I don't know either.
Now there's a couple things that I like and dislike about that. Because I too found myself, no matter how much I liked some of the journey and ultimately the ending that gave me the big like pow, I too felt like there needed to be more to this movie. I was like, there needs to be more here. However, then I learned about the tale and I was like, man, they like made these choices on purpose. Most of this was added. And so they had the opportunity for him to like fight monsters or like do any of these things. They wanted to tell this specific story. And so while I think it's very strange, at the same time, I still love that A24 takes these wild swings.
Me too. I love that they find a filmmaker that has a vision and they're like, make that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Even if I don't love all the movies, I love that there's a company out there that's still taking those risks.
Me too,
It's really great.
And so I don't know if it relates more to kids or not. I don't know who this was in mind for.
And I don't really think they were that concerned with it, which
They
is
might not
fucking
be.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie could just be for the director.
I
Could
think
be,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. That's wonderful. I'm happy to have seen this movie. I'm glad that it exists, even if I don't love the finished product.
Okay, so we talked about this before. I thought this was a spectacle of a movie. And like almost every scene was so picturesque to me. The color palette, even in the way that they do his outfits, the blue and yellow kind of color, but they suck any amount of red out of this movie. There's not one drop of red in this movie, but they stick with this color palette even with like the hills have like this yellow tinge to them. It's like blue and it's yellow, but it's like so beautiful. I found like every scene just, this is such a beautiful movie.
It is. It's gorgeous
to me. Yeah. And I was like blown. And the acting is fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought every actor did a great job. And anytime I found that they were delivering any kind of like major, dialogue or discussion between them, I was mesmerized by it. Like Arthur, I didn't even know who this character was. Like, okay, it's supposed to be Arthur, but him never seen this character before, and him saying like, come sit with me, I regret that I don't know you. I found that like so moving. And then even the discussion with like, I don't know, anytime anybody was talking to each other, what was supposed to come across, like that kid was a shyster and I hated him. Arthur, I felt, that he was this old man withering away. Like every piece of like discussion gave me the feeling it was supposed to give me. And I thought I was mesmerized by that, because I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to hate this fucking kid, and I do completely. I know he's a shyster. I'm supposed to feel sorry for this old man. I've never even seen him before. In like 3 lines of dialogue, I know where he's at.
It is about time to land the discussion, but it sounds like you're kind of starting to sum up some stuff anyways, Juice. Do you want to just kick us off out of 5? Round up your thoughts and let us know what you're going to rate The Green Knight.
Yeah. I'll just continue off of those thoughts. The main positives that like really have me respecting this film and thinking about this film, again, is it's beautiful. I love the way it's constructed, and I love the atmosphere that they're able to create, this idea of Christmas, but it's got this like gloomy feeling. I felt the like cold halls, but it had this mysticism to it too, the fog and the forest and the giants. And even though I don't understand it, like these giants, and there's this rolling fog and they're naked, but like when she calls out, when she like tries to speak, and it's this just wild language, I found that so fantastical in such a rich way, and I respect it a lot, because in a society where we have Marvel movies cranked out, where everything has to be action packed, and where we just came off of something huge like Game of Thrones that was in the fantasy realm, and again it was like dragons breathing the fire, I can't help but respect this movie that puts you in this fantastical realm where everything feels rich and true and looks beautiful, and the acting is like so spot on, amazing. And they create this Green Knight that in the book is essentially just like covered in green hair and shit, and make him look realistic in a fantastical sense, like grounded. I loved the journey that I took in this movie, and I love that it exists, and I love that like somebody just took, I don't even know, a big swing. I love that it just exists in its realm, and I respect it in almost every facet. Whether or not I can say, this character is a piece of shit or whatnot, I didn't find him that way. I found him a little more relatable and endearing in some ways, maybe because I saw him as a kid and I kind of wanted him to succeed, and I felt like he fell short, but I saw the growth in the end. I saw his growth. I love the little twist of his head coming off. I did not see that coming, and I liked it. I wish I kind of seen that mid-credit scene. I don't know. I liked this movie, and it's had me thinking about it and researching the original story, which is like rich to me. I don't know, but I will agree that it was lacking. From a movie standpoint, I agree that I didn't fully understand it. Like, there should have been a little more like meat to some of these tests, or at least like understanding where these tests are coming from, what they're supposed to test specifically, and how it relates to the character. I'm going to give it a 3.5 plus a half star for the giant Yabos. You got to stay consistent.
For the giant Yabos, they still get a half star. I feel like you should give it a whole star for the giant.
No, I'm giving it
Yabos.
only half star for the Yabos. So I'm going to end the Green Knight at a 4 star. Matt, you're our guest today. Why don't you tell us, out of 5, how are you feeling about the Green Knight?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said. I do. I think I see some more problems in it than you do, or at least you see the problems. They just bother me a little more than you.
Okay.
The pacing was at the end of the movie. I think my wife was about to kill herself. Like it really dragged on.
Yeah.
Especially with the false ending, because you think the movie's wrapping up, and then there's like 2 more sex scenes and then a war. You know,
2 more sex scenes.
I love the cinematography of this movie. I love that everything's blues and greens except for the when the 2 people get their head cut off. That's the only red in the movie.
Yeah.
There's blood at the beginning and blood at the end, and that's the only red you see. I love the soundtrack to this movie and the sound effects. There's a fancy word for that. Randy would know it if he was here.
Foley.
Foley. There we go. Yeah.
We don't need Randy.
The Foley in this movie is amazing.
Need him.
And what y'all were saying about just, I want more movies like this to exist.
Yeah.
I don't think that this movie has a lot of rewatchability though. I might pop this movie in every 4 or 5 years, but I'm not going to watch it every Tuesday. That's definitely not going to happen.
No.
I'm looking very forward to like the disc with the special features. And I don't know if that's a plus for the movie, but I'm going to count it as a plus for the movie.
Yeah.
So with that, the giant half star for Yabos.
Okay, you count it too, huh?
It's still a half star. It's just a giant half star.
There
Nice.
you go.
So that'll put me at a 2.75.
Okay. Robert,
Yes, sir.
out of 5, Green Knight. Are you counting your half star for Yabos, Bomb?
I never do. That is
Blasphemy.
not my rule. It is only yours. And also, apparently, Matt's. Matt has adopted it.
I am pro Yabos.
Matt is a man with the code.
I'm happy this movie exists for sure. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. I feel like the script needed like 2 or 3 more passes. It needed to be tightened. I feel like they really needed to like figure out what they were trying to convey with the character of Gawain, because it is very different than the original story. So like, okay, what are you really trying to show in this movie? Because it's his story. It really is. So like he's going on a journey. What specifically is he going to learn? How specifically is he going to change? And I just feel like by the end of this movie, he's barely changed any, if at all, really. And it ultimately is all, the journey is for naught. Like I don't really like see the point in it. And that makes the length of the movie and just the very slow, drawn out pacing, like even more not worth it. You know, it's just like, it's gorgeous for sure, but like that only gets you so far, in my opinion. I mean, you know, like I said, it's a visual medium, and they really do, like, you can tell the filmmaker is like a master of his craft. He knows what he's doing. I just don't know that he should be a screenwriter. Maybe give that job to somebody else. Ultimately, kind of lukewarm on this movie. Probably more positives than negatives, though. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. No half star for the Yabos.
Damn.
Just a straight up 3 out of 5. And I do want to echo what Matt said. The score is fucking great in this movie. It's really, really solid. One thing that did bother me, we didn't mention this. The movie's sort of like broken down into chapters, and you get like title cards for the various chapters.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And like some of them, for me anyways, were pretty difficult to read.
I agree with that. There was one specifically where I was like, I don't know what that just said.
Yeah, there was one that was white text, and like the top left corner of the screen was blown out. So I was like, what? I just literally can't read that.
Agree, yeah.
And maybe it was
that.
the theater I was at, but I don't know.
It hit a certain nostalgia for me though,
Yeah.
because it reminded me of like the Robin Hood cartoon and everything growing up.
Yeah.
So like it really put me in that medieval space, seeing that type of lettering.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm down with that generally, but just like make sure
From
that,
a craft
that you can
standpoint,
read
yeah,
it.
like-
you know, like that's
Give it that drop shadow or something.
something. But yeah, that's gonna put our aggregate at a 3.25. Let's go ahead and jump to a Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about The Green Knight.
Let's do that.
Certified fresh to death.
Why is that so quiet?
I heard it pretty fine.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay, it could just be my headphones.
So Randy's obviously out tonight, so I'm going to be picking up his slack and running this little game. If you are new to the podcast, what we do for our Rotten Tomatoes segment is we go around the table. I'm going to give these fellas a chance to guess what the critic score is for The Green Knight on Rotten Tomatoes, and then we're going to go around again and guess the user's score for The Green Knight. Gentle Mangs... there is 161 critics' reviews for The Green Knight on Rotten Tomatoes. Out of 100, Matt, what do you think the critics rated this?
Well, I think the critics really like A24. They're probably just tugging their belt all over this. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna come in at a 94.
Woo!
Nice. All right. Very high. Juice, what about you?
I agree. I hope they're sniffing those farts over on the critic side. I think that's too high for this particular movie, though. But I'm going to play it safe and stay on the high end. So I'll just take like a 90.
Well, we got a ring-a-ding-ding. It is exactly a 90%.
Whoa! Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
I wanted to bad.
Don't let him pressure you, buddy.
Do and a ring-a-ding. Whoa.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Oh, my Lord. Thank you for being a honorable man there, man.
You know what happens when you get a
Mang.
ring-a-ding-ding, Juice? I'm going to instate this rule right here, right now. You have to take a shot of Malort.
Oh, is that
what
dude?
you-
We're going to need a lot of Malort.
The critics' consensus says... The Green Knight honors and deconstructs its source material in equal measure, producing an absorbing adventure that casts a fantastical spell.
Okay.
I don't know about that. Gentlemen, we're going to go around and guess what the audience score is out of 100. Juice, why don't you kick us off?
This has to be significantly lower. Like, this has to be so much lower. I still want to hope on the general side of positiveness, but I know this is going to drop significantly. 69. 69 special, please.
69 is in play. Matt?
See, I think the people who wouldn't like this movie didn't go see it. So, like, unless they were like my wife, if we're basing this off of hers, this movie is horrible.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna $1 down the Juice, and I'm gonna go with a 68.
All right.
68 dudes, please.
You chose the correct number of dudes, Matt. It is 53%.
Whoa! My God.
That's a big gap between
That
the two.
is, that is a huge drop. Matt, what celebratory chant would you prefer today?
Could you just tell me you would fuck a space vampire?
Matt, I, like you, would also fuck a space vampire.
Yes.
She looked as good as the chicken life force. I'm down.
Awesome.
I'm down
That
to
makes me
boogie.
happy.
DTB, down to boogie. Audience says, for better or for worse, Worst. The beautifully The beautifully filmed Green Knight is a different take on a classic story that takes its time in the telling and leaves a lot open to interpretation. That is correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of interpretation.
There was over 500 audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm just trying to find a negative. All these are fucking positive. I'm not going to scroll. Randy's not here. I'm not going to do what Randy usually does. Gentlemen, congratulations. You both won something, so that's always good. Let's go ahead and continue on. Do we have any other trivia that we want to hit, or do we cover it all?
In our normal IMDb trivia, there was like a disappointing lack of interesting things. There was only 5 pieces. None of them stood out as being interesting. Matt, is there anything that you want to talk about in trivia?
I don't know. I mean, we covered the
talked
book
about
pretty
a lot
during the talk. I think we
Okay.
covered it all.
We'll skip it then.
Sweet deal. Then you know what time it is. It's time to go hunting.
Straight chillin'! Cooter of the way!
Juice, roll that bump one more time, buddy.
Encore, right?
Juice, what is a cooter and why are we hunting them?
Well, a cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive, Bob. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. We want the cooter with the most points. Oh, man, here we go. The 5 points are, now that I realize this segment has come up, I'm like, oh, no. Sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Let's go hunting. Who do you guys think is the cooter of the week?
Well, I mean, we got to take a look at Gowan.
That's what the realization is hitting me that that's unfortunately what we have to do. All right, let's break down our boy Gowan.
Pathetic.
Okay, why, Bob?
Because he basically cannot fend for himself or really largely make his own decisions. And when he does make a decision, it's like not the right one a lot of the times. Not all the time, but a lot of the times.
It's always the easiest one, though.
True. Yeah. Like he's like, I feel like the movie, okay, the way the movie starts is pretty pathetic. Like, I feel like he's trying to impress his uncle and like all the knights of the round table. And that's why he chooses to decapitate the Green Knight instead of just giving him a little nick, which truly fucks him over.
Oh, that is one thing we didn't talk about. Matt, I don't know if you know anything about this, but since Bob's talking about it, it's relevant. I don't know if that's pathetic. That actually, it's almost kind of like a game where the punching game where you get a free blow and you accelerate it. That was a thing that happened back in that day. And I think he took that. I think he made that decision because he thought that he wouldn't have to face the consequences, that he was capable of decapitating him and that he wouldn't have to face the consequences. And he would be true.
Sounds pathetic.
Yeah, that does sound pathetic.
But he decapitates.
I think he's a pretty pathetic character.
It's hard to defend him because he is such a fuck up, and if nothing else, like his whole jizzing on his belt, we could talk about that, and I would lump that into patheticness.
Yeah.
So that I can't defend him too much on that point.
What about his attire? He
I
seems
thought he was
pretty
looking
classy.
smooth.
Yeah,
Dude,
he got that yellow cape.
Yeah, that yellow,
It's yellow
and blue
because he's a coward.
Yeah,
by the way.
combo.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
I mean, he's dressed well for the day. So, I think that's fine.
He had that sweet ass shield with that painting on the inside.
Yeah, he's looking smooth.
Yeah, I don't think we can give him any points for.
Not at any point in the movie do I think like, oh, he looks like a cooter.
No, he's not really sexually deviant. I mean, he does succumb to the lady towards the end of the movie, but like
she's throwing it
she's
at him,
laying it on thick.
Yeah.
So I mean, if anything, she's deviant. I don't.
Yeah, she was actually who I was going to nominate.
I mean, it takes two to tango, but like he's pretty reluctant the entire time, to be honest, and he just really needs the belt. So it's not even really about sex. It's seemingly for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pathetic again, really, just at that scene.
Pathetic. He's hitting hard, but so far nothing else. Manipulation.
Ego. Manipulation, yeah.
Does he manipulate anybody in this movie?
Well,
he tries to.
Who?
The Green Knight. But he fucking fails.
Does he try to manipulate him?
Well, I mean, he tries to take advantage of the situation by cutting his head off.
Oh. Yeah.
He keeps dating his girlfriend even though he knows they can't actually end up together.
That could be a good
true.
call.
Yeah.
That could be a good call. But see, he's not dating her though. He pays her. She is a whore, and he sleeps with her. And he even makes a point that like he pays her gold every single time.
You're just applying the patheticness.
Well, that's fine.
Because they both obviously have feelings for each other. They know there's more than that. Yet he keeps pretending it's just a John Hooker relationship.
I don't know if he leads her on particularly. He pays her every time.
I don't think
that is her job.
The fact that he stays around and talks to her after is him leading her on.
Now, I would say that that's kind of a dick move. That's a dick move.
Yeah.
For somebody who like sleeps with you constantly that you pay, like even though he's paying her, for her to be like, no, like I want to be with you, then. But also he thinks possibly he's heading off to his death. So what is there to be gained by that?
Also pathetic.
Well,
Pretty pathetic.
he is pathetic.
I don't think he's smug, really, at all.
Yeah, there wasn't a moment. Was there?
Well, when that guy thought he was a knight and he didn't correct him,
In which, the Lord or whatever?
the robber boy.
Oh. Didn't he tell him he wasn't a knight? No, he did, because then once he gets robbed, he said, I told you I wasn't a knight.
No, he says, I never said that. You said
did.
that.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that might be manipulation instead.
Could be.
I'd say it's a little of both.
I don't think he hits enough
I don't
on
think
any
so,
3
yeah.
points
I don't
to
think
be
he's got
considered
enough.
even a Cooter light.
Cooter adjacent.
Ooh. All right, my boy Gal. I've been trying to defend this poor guy. It was tough at points.
What about the mom? She's manipulative.
She is manipulate, and what we never even came to like why the fuck she's doing this.
She's trying to get her kid out of her fucking basement.
Does she control the Green Knight?
I don't know that she controls him, but she definitely knows the game and summons him. She puts him in play.
Yeah, but like, why would she put her kid at risk like that?
I don't know. I think she's just trying to force him to become an
Honorable.
honorable man.
Okay,
But she also tries to protect him with the girdle.
the green belt. Yeah, that's true.
I took it that she knew he was going to be king one day, so he could. She didn't want him to be a shitbox while he was sitting on the throne.
Okay,
That's a good point, yeah.
That is a good. Yeah, okay, good call, Matt.
If she's controlling all his trials, does that mean she set up the lady of the manor
Yeah,
jerking him off?
I would think so.
that's super weird.
That is super weird, yeah.
That is super weird.
Also,
His mom made him blow all over the
while a
fucking girl.
blindfold lady
Fucking
stood there like 3 feet away.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Actually, we don't know whose hand was tugging what, so
Oh,
it
no.
could have been any of them.
if any, was there any tugging going on? Like, I don't know. Maybe that girdle just really fucking does it for him.
Ooh. That would, yeah.
Oh,
I
silky
still don't
girl.
understand that,
So,
like blind woman or anything.
If we are to ascribe all these various like hurdles that Gawain has to overcome to his mother, like his mother really put all this shit together. Let's look at it that way.
Okay.
So she is manipulating him.
Okay, sure.
Potentially sexually deviant with the whole jerk off scene situation.
Yeah, I guess.
And
so.
she orchestrated a game where he had to kiss and maybe even do more stuff with the Lord of the Manor.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, she's a witch cooter, guys.
What about the Lord of the Manor? He might. Well, we can get to him.
He did show up in a bear costume.
It's kind of a good look, I think.
Yeah, the mom. She's not pathetic.
No,
She's not. Her attire doesn't hit,
normal. Yeah.
and she's not arrogant.
Maybe this is just Cooter free movie.
Free, A24 Cooter free.
Yeah.
It's like everyone picked their own little cooter subsection.
Yeah.
Well, Cooter Crumb here.
The
Cooter
Lord
Crumb
of the
there.
Manor. If we are going by book standards, we could say that he's sexually deviant and manipulative because he concocts the whole, like, he tells his wife to like tempt somebody sexually. Then he also manipulates them, like, to staying and to playing this whole game, and he turns out to be the Green Knight. I don't know if he's arrogant though. Maybe Cooter free. I think it is.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Don't have enough evidence to convict.
We
Looks
don't.
like
We gotta let them all run wild.
Cooter free movie.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah.
They're on the loose.
Let's go ahead and let our hair down. Get into the social hour. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Yes, we are.
Indeed, we are.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Juice, what you been watching this week?
Dude, we skipped last What You've Been Watching, and this episode is late. So I've been watching like a ton of things, so I'll kind of keep it brief. One of the most interesting things I've been watching is a new, or not new, new to me. I started a new docuseries on Netflix. I think it came out in 2018, though, actually. It's called Wild Wild Country. And it's about this guru that came over from India in the 80s, I believe, maybe late 70s. I think it ended around 85. But he essentially, he sets his secretary out to buy this huge, he creates this following in India, not just like an Indian following, like they're interviewing these people. One's like a lawyer from LA, just all these people. He gets this huge following going on in India. He's essentially kind of like a rock star over there, but like guru status. Gets all of this funding from these people and able to buy a 63,000 acre ranch in Oregon. Okay. He buys this ranch and they're going to build a town out there. And then essentially what it becomes is just this huge tug of war between the state of Oregon being like, shit, we don't want these people here, and trying to like break their own like voting laws and stuff. Because essentially what this community does is first they buy this ranch, and then the state's like, you can't build a city there because they don't want them there because they're kind of weird. It's like kind of like this big sex cult. Like literally the people who were like living next to them were like, you could hear them having sex like forever, like every hour of the day loudly.
Yeah.
So then they were like trying to shut them down. Well, then they had so many followers and so much money that they just bought this town that was complaining about them legally. Like they would literally go in and be like, we're going to buy your property. Here's a bunch of money. Will you accept it? Yes. So they bought this town.
Damn.
Yeah. So then the state of Oregon was like, shit. And they were in this kind of like smaller county too. So they tried to shut them down from like a county level. Then they started like shipping in. They started sending buses out and bringing in like homeless people into their community. So they had enough people and registering them to vote. So they had enough to take over this county or what. And it's like this huge back and forth. It's like fascinating. It's just like every episode I ended like, what the? I was blowing my mind. Just this back and forth. Very, very interesting. I loved it. It's 6 episodes. It was like so good. I finally got to see Black Widow. It was okay. It was medium. The old medium Marvel. I don't remember. Finished Loki. It was great. That was like really great. What else? Man, it's been like 2 weeks worth of stuff. I finished that Resident Evil animated show. It's only 4 episodes on Netflix. I think it's like Endless Dark or something like that. It was, man, I was pretty disappointed in it. I think I'm going to do a mini cast on that one. I like Resident Evil, and the characters that they show in there are like the ones that the games that I've played, and I just thought it was like a really missed opportunity because I think they got like the original voice actors and everything, and they try. It's almost like they were doing with Castlevania, where they did the initial 4 episodes, like they were like kind of testing the waters. Like Castlevania is fucking amazing. This one, man, I was pretty disappointed with it. I don't know if they're gonna try to keep it going or not. Hopefully they clean it up. But I finished that. That's all the things I can think about. Matt, what you been watching?
Well, my mom's in town, and I watched Pleasantville with her last night.
Okay.
Nice.
And that movie holds up great. But it was really weird to see the nostalgia from both our points of view. Because that movie takes place in 98. I was in high school, and the kids are in high school. So they're showing these 90 kids in their 90s clothes, and it looks stupid now. But back then, you're like, that was fucking awesome. And then they hop in the TV show, and my mom remembers watching those shows when she was a kid. And it was just a really interesting conversation to have. as we watched the show, but it also made me start thinking about how like we're like the society right now is on this big nostalgia kick, and like everyone's throwing 80s parties and we're talking about 90s fashion. But I don't think it was ever not been like that. I think it's just the internet. We're way more aware of it now. Because I don't know. I'm a little older than you, Bob. I know I'm way older than Juice.
He'll have you believe that.
I'm gonna be 23 this year. Whoa.
When I was a kid, they would throw like 50s parties and like Grease came out. And you know, we're going through that same thing. Where like every 80s movie had a greaser in it for some reason. You're like, why's this fucking guy a greaser? It's 1986. But you know, like they were going through the same nostalgia we are now. And I had that conversation with my mom because I watched Pleasantville. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Even like the mid 90s kind of had like this weird like hippie kind of revival type of thing going
I
on.
dated one of those. It was it was weird.
So tie-dye was back in for a hot minute.
Like artisanal kites made of bamboo and hacky sack and
hacky sacks.
Yeah.
I played some mean hacky sack. I kicked myself in the balls like at least 3 times that I know of.
That's
a good point, Matt.
It's not too difficult, actually. I can show you after the cast.
If you got really long balls, it's easy.
Also, because I didn't plug it earlier, I've been editing my podcast all weekend. I recorded like 4 episodes this weekend. So
nice.
My podcast is Swords and Stereo. It's historical European martial arts focused. If that sounds boring to you, we also tell dick jokes.
Yeah.
So, what about
check it out anyway?
What about you, Bob? What have you been watching?
Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
I've been watching a handful of things. Probably the most notable one was I went to the Florida Theater to watch a screening of The Evil Dead, which was hosted by Bruce Campbell.
Whoa.
It was pretty cool.
The Mang himself.
The Mang, yeah. Ash finally came to his favorite city ever for the first time in real life. His first time Bruce Campbell has ever been here. And he talked for a good 90 minutes before they showed the movie. And he just like launched into a bunch of anecdotes about like the filming of The Evil Dead way back in the day, and like how he got like super stoned on set, never smoked weed for the first time, and was like totally unable to act, but Sam Raimi like pretended like he was rolling anyways and made him do a bunch of horrific shit just to entertain himself, you know, like just wild stories like that. And then he ended up taking questions for the last like 20 or 30 minutes, and then they rolled the movie. And he was talking about, like, he obviously did a bunch of research about, like, Jacksonville and about the Florida Theater as well. And he was talking about how, like, it's apparently haunted. There's, like, a janitor that, I guess, took his own life, like, over 100 years ago or something like that. And, like, supposedly he still, like, haunts the theater.
Whoa.
And they had, like, all the seats reupholstered. And, like, there's only 2 original seats left in the house. But he wouldn't tell us where they were at. And I was like, I don't know this. And I've lived here my whole life. This is really, really cool stuff.
Huh.
So that was really interesting. He's super entertaining, super funny dude. Obviously The Evil Dead is what it is. Definitely watch it if you haven't. I also checked out that Woodstock 99 documentary that's on HBO Max.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that. It looks dark.
It's really, really interesting. We were all live when that happened, and I remember hearing like stories.
I was this close to going.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My girlfriend at the time did go, and there wasn't room in the car for me, and that's the only reason I go.
Damn.
You stay home.
I did stay home.
That's fucking nuts.
They put like 7 people in a Volkswagen Bug and drove up there.
Oh,
damn.
Volkswagen Bugs were coming back then.
They really wanted to see Korn. That's nuts. I don't know, man. Like I definitely listened to that music growing up, but back in '99, I was definitely too young to ever consider going. And I remember just like hearing stories about like people's like, setting fire to stuff and like porta potties overflowing and like people dying and stuff. And it's like really, really fucking tragic to like get into exactly why all that happens. They interview the 2 dudes that like actually created Woodstock and hosted the very first Woodstock back in '69, and they show some like old footage from that, but they also get into a lot of like pretty damning stuff that happened back in '69 that like nobody recalls or nobody really like discusses anymore.
Weren't like the Hell's Angels security for that? That's nuts.
Yeah, there was like fights breaking out and stuff back in '69, but nobody like references it. That it's like the Summer of Love and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all peace and love or whatever. But it's not. It really wasn't all peace and love. And they get into just the general history of Woodstock and like how it's sort of like been plagued with problems. And then '99 was just like obviously the absolute worst. People were dying and stuff. But that shit like cracked me up. So like Woodstock '99 actually took place in the city of Rome, New York, and the mayor like pulled Anthony Kiedis aside. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers just finished their set, and they walk off stage, and the mayor of the city is like, "Hey man, they're like setting fire to shit. Like, can you go out there and calm them down? Like, I really need a solid from you." And the Chili Peppers go out to do an encore, and they play fucking a cover of Fire from Jimi Hendrix, and like just like feed right into it, man. That shit is like pretty terrible, but also like kind of comedic, I guess. It's like I don't think anybody like burned to death or anything, but it's Anthony Kiedis is probably just high as fuck, and he's like, "Man, whatever. I'm here to fucking play a rock and roll show," Like, I don't know. It's just really, really interesting. I highly recommend watching that.
Dude, I wanted to look up like some of the lineup from Woodstock '99.
Yeah.
Here's some wild names for you. Lit, The Roots, Insane Clown Posse, George Clinton, Everclear. Oh, geez. A Korn, Limp Bizkit, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Creed, Seven Dust, Spitfire. I don't know who that is. Buck Cherry. Oh, my Lord.
Fucking
Sugar Ray. Live, Sheryl Crow, DMX, The Offspring, Bush, Kid Rock, Counting Crows, Dave Matthews Band, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Damn.
They show footage of basically everybody that you just named playing.
Yeah.
There's like DMX's set was apparently just like fucking massive. And it was overwhelmingly a white crowd at Woodstock '99. And like one of his songs was like he was using a lot of like racial slurs and stuff. Like all the white people were just like yelling that shit. It's just like a weird time to be alive. Like where, I don't know, man. That's just weird. It's weird shit. I recommend checking it out. Last thing I want to mention, I watched a movie called Shiva Baby that's on Hulu. It's a new release. It's like kind of a coming of age tale. It's about this girl who just graduated from high school. She's going to college or considering going to college, and a friend of her family passes away, and they sit Shiva, which is basically just like a Jewish family gets together and they mourn a loved one. Basically, it's sort of like a potluck. People bring a bunch of food over and stuff, and the main character is just like being grilled by like everybody attending this Shiva about like how is her life going, like what are her plans in college, like what is she going to do after college, what's she going to do in life, is she dating anybody, and she's like she's bisexual, and like there's this girl that she was in a relationship with, it's also there, and it's like very awkward between the two of them, but also her family like doesn't totally accept that, so it's awkward between her and her family because of that, and they're like trying to like brush over the fact that that's actually like a reality in their family. And like this movie start to finish, it's only like 80 minutes long, it's pretty short, but it's like anxiety inducing the entire movie.
Sounds like it.
Just like on pins and needles for the whole fucking thing. It's like, I don't know that I could say I enjoyed it, but I really, really appreciated the movie. And I think if you're down for something that's sort of like going to make you feel like you're sitting on pins and needles, I really recommend it. The performances are solid as fuck, but it's like, man, it has you like pulling your hair out a little bit.
Yeah.
Shiva Baby on Hulu. That's it. That's what I've been watching. Gentlemangs.
Nice.
Yeah. We got some voicemails. We're going to hold them for the next show. We're going to be recording in just a few days anyways. Matt, seriously, thanks for sitting in with us, man. It was great having you on. It's been a long time
being
coming.
here, Bob. I like seeing how the sausage gets made.
Yeah. You like seeing our sausages
That's
get made?
That's exactly what I said, and I meant it.
I'm sure. Do you want to remind everybody where they can learn how to sword fight or listen to how to sword fight?
Yeah, so my club is Bold City Longsword in Jacksonville, Florida. A city so nice they named it Jacksonville.
Or LERP.
Or LERP.
If you're
Oh
local.
my God. We'll get into that.
And then my
later.
podcast is Swords and Stereo.
Cool.
And we talk about historical European martial arts, and we tell lots of dick jokes. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Sounds rad. If you want to learn how to behead somebody in real life, you can do that at Matt's Sword School.
Matt, what'd you think of the Blue Room? The room we're in right now.
It's filled with Blu-rays.
It's pretty awesome. I tried to count the DVDs and I got a nosebleed, so I stopped.
Yeah.
I want to point out that if you're watching behind the scenes or have ever watched behind the scenes, I've got this red horror sign that's sitting on my shelf in the back here, and that was given to me from Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
thanks.
I used to
Matt.
work at an adult video store, and we had a horror section for some reason.
Dude, I didn't realize. I thought you just worked at like a mom and pop rental shop. I didn't know it was specifically.
No, there was like 7 normal movies in the front, and then you walked behind the curtain, and it was all adult movies.
Dude, did you guys have Slam Stoker's Dracula?
I'm sure we did. We had like 8 versions of Star Wars porn.
Wow.
My boy Slam Stoker.
Slam stroking. That explains all the dick jokes, man. We're going to be back next week with a brand new episode. As always, we're going to be talking about yet another Patreon pick. This one is In Fabric from 2018. This one was chosen by Jackie B. So slam your eyeballs into In Fabric. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, just let me know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in. And until next time, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.